Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing an Exosister deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an extremely powerful deck to play this format because of all the amazing XZ monsters you can summon with this build. I absolutely love how you can control the graveyard with this deck, so without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like in your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Exosister Martha. This card is a definite 3-of in the deck, and it's probably the most powerful card in the entire deck. And if you control no monsters or only XZ monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if you do, special summon a copy of Exosister Elise from your deck. And you cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate this effect except Exosister monsters, which is totally fine because that's usually all we're summoning anyways. And if a card is moved out of either graveyard except during the damage step, you can special summon from your X check one Exosister XZ monster using this face-up card that you control as a material, and this is treated as an XZ summon, which is a really powerful ability. Just being able to instantly make an XZ monster if a card is moved out of either player's graveyard while your copy of Martha is on the field. We then play 3 copies of Exosister Elise. Elise is a definite 3-of in the build because this card is one of the most powerful combo pieces in the deck because it has the ability, if you control an Exosister monster, you can special summon this card in their hand. Then if you control a copy of Stella, then you gain 800 life points. And all of your Exosister monsters actually share a common ability except for your copy of Martha, that if your opponent moves the cards out of either player's graveyard except during the damage step, then you can special summon your X check one Exosister XZ monster using this face-up card that you control as a material, and is treated as an XZ summon, which is a really cool effect. And the difference between all the rest of your Exosister monsters and your copy of Martha is Martha does not say your opponent has to move it, it can be moved by either player, which is super cool about your copy of Martha. We then play just 2 copies of Stella. Stella's really good as a 2-of in this build. I have cut this card down to 2. You can play 3 copies, but I feel like with the other tech cards I'm playing, 2 is totally fine. This card has the ability during your main phase, you can special summon an Exosister monster from your hand. Then if you control a copy of Elise, you gain 800 life points, which is a really cool effect. We then play 2 copies of Sophia. Sophia is really good as a 2-of in the build as well, because this card has the ability, if you control another Exosister monster, you can draw a card. Then if you control a copy of Irene, you gain 800 life points, which is a great effect. We then play just a single copy of Irene. I feel like 1 copy of Irene is all you need in this build. This card has the ability you can place an Exosister card from your hand on the bottom of the deck and then draw a card, which is a pretty neat ability, but it doesn't come up all that often. Then, if you control an Exosister Sophia, you gain 800 life points, which is a pretty cool effect. We then play 3 copies of Aratama. Aratama is an insane 3-of in the deck. It's probably the best normal summon in the entire build. Is this card has the ability, when this card is normal summoned or flip face up, you can add a spirit monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card, which will search out your copy of your Sakitama. Sakitama is definitely a 2-of in the build. You could also play 3 copies of this card, but I feel like 2 is all you need because you can search it off your copy of Aratama. And this card has the ability you can reveal this card in your hand. To me, this effect resolves, you get to normal summon a spirit monster from your hand, which is usually going to be your copy of your Sakitama. You're going to be normal summoning off this card's ability, which is just super cool to be able to do to instantly get another level 4 on your side of the field, because by just normal summoning out your copy of Aratama, it's going to basically get you into a rank 4 play, which is just super cool. We then play 3 copies of Dimension Shifter. Dimension Shifter is insane in this deck because it doesn't matter what gets banished by us, because it's just insane in this deck, because this card doesn't affect this at all. This card is really cool because if you have no cards in your grave, then you just discard this card, and then once you do, it just banishes everything, which is just amazing to be able to do. You can discard this card or send it to the graveyard, which is just super cool to be able to do. And usually when you resolve this, you're probably gonna win the game, because this card is so powerful, because there's so many graveyard focused decks running around right now that this card is just so good. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's amazing in this deck as a 3-of, just to stop your opponent from touching the deck, and it's just a really powerful hand trap. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Pot of Prosperity is really good as a 3-of in the deck, just to help you dig into the deck for the exact cards that you need. We then also play 3 copies of Exosister packs. This card is an amazing searcher for the deck, as it has the ability during your main phase, you pay 800 life points to add an Exosister card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. Then, if you added a monster, by this effect, you can special summon it, and if the other Exosister monster mentioned on it is on your side of the field or in your graveyard, which is a really cool effect that this card can almost be like a copy of E-Telly, which is absolutely insane. This card is a definite 3-of in the build. So, that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Exosister Vadis. Vadis is really good as a 1-of in the build, but you only need a single copy of this card because you can search it really easily. As it lets you pay 800 life points to choose an Exosister monster from your deck, then take one other Exosister monster from your deck that is mentioned on that monster and special them both, but shuffle them into the deck during the end phase. Also for the rest turn, add the card results, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Exosisters, which is totally fine for this card to be able to do, because this card instantly gets you basically into an XZ play, which is amazing, especially since it puts 2 on your side of the field. So if your opponent moves anything out of the graveyard, then it's basically going to get you 2 XZ plays, which is crazy. We then play 2 copies of Returnia. Returnia is a crazy powerful. This card is a definite 2-of in the build. It has the ability, if all monsters you control are Exosister monsters, you pay 8 life points and target 1 card that your opponent controls or in their graveyard and banish it. Then you apply one of the following effects. The minute the set resolves, you get to XZ summon an Exosister monster using a monster that you control, or if you XZ summon this turn, banish 1 card your opponent controls, which it doesn't even target, which is amazing for this card. This card is a definite 2-of in the build, just helps you so much at spot removing cards off the field, and it's a really good 2-of in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Impermanence is a definite 3-of in the build, just to stop your opponent's monster effects, and helps out so much in this build, just to lock down entire columns of spells and traps. We then play 3 copies of Evenly Matched. Evenly Matched is insane to be able to main deck this card in this build, because this card just deals with your opponent's back row, deals with your opponent's monsters. If we do get pushed to go second, it's just going to help you break your opponent's board, and it's just a really powerful card right now. We then also play 3 copies of Goes and Match. We pretty much only summon light in this deck, so this card is really good to just flip against the opponent, and it just really doesn't do anything at all to us and locks down our entire opponent's field, which is really good. This card just basically lockdowns entire decks, especially if you go up against a match that's playing multiple different attributes. It can basically win you a game like Dimension Shifter, which is amazing. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with 2 copies of Exosister Magnifica. And this card really is magnificent. This card is super easy to summon to your side of the field. It's almost like F-Zero, because it does require 2 Exosister XZ monsters to make this card. And it has the ability that it must be XZ summoned with the above materials, and this card can make a second attack during each battle phase. And once per turn, quick effect, you can detach a material from this card to banish 1 card that your opponent controls, and it doesn't even target, which is super cool. I love that about this card, that it doesn't target to banish, it just banishes something off the field, which is just absolutely insane how powerful that is. And when your opponent activates a card effect, quick effect, you can return 1 XZ monster owned attached to this card to your extra deck. Then you can special summon that monster from your extra deck by using this card you control as a material, basically tagging this card out for the monster that was originally attached to this card, which is super cool. I love that you can swap them out, which is just super cool about this card. We then play 3 copies of Makalis. Makalis is insane. Makalis is so powerful in this deck because this card has the ability that it cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster special summon from the graveyard. You only see the following effects this card once per turn. That if you control this card that was XZ summoned this turn by using an Exosister monster as a material, then quick effect, you can target 1 card your opponent controls or in the graveyard and banish it. You also detach a material in this card to add an Exosister spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool ability to be able to search out your traps from your deck to your hand. We then played 2 copies of Caspatel. I really like 2 copies of Caspatel in this build because this card has a really insane ability that it basically has the effect that if this card is Exy summoned using an Exosister monster as a material, neither player can special summon monsters from the graveyards for the rest of the turn, which is just super cool to lock down the grave. And it also has the ability that you can detach a material in this card to add an Exosister monster from your deck to your hand. We then played 2 copies of Asophiel. Asophiel is just really good in this deck as a 2-of. I absolutely love double Asophiel. In this particular build, especially with the copies of Gozen Match, you really want to lean more towards the Exosister XZ monsters and against the cards that like are staples, which is why I just played 2 copies of this card. But it's really good because if this XZ summon card, if this card was XZ summoned using an Exosister monster as a material, neither player can activate the effects of cards in the graveyard this turn, and you can also detach a material in this card and then target 1 monster opponent controls and return it back to the hand, which is a great effect to use this card as a bounce. We then played 2 copies of Gabrine. Gabrine is really good as a 2-of in the deck because this card just boosts your monsters up by 800, which is really good to be able to do. I love that you can just detach a material from this card, and for the rest of turn, all XZ monsters you control gain 800 attack, which is super cool to be able to use with Gabrine, and it's just absolutely insane. We then play a single copy of Baguska. This is one of the only non-light monsters that I play in the entire X deck, but it's just too good not to play a copy of Baguska because this card just stops your opponent and basically just locks them down, which is amazing, and it just helps out so much. We then play a single copy of Exciton Knight. Exciton Knight's amazing for board wiping, which is just amazing. Speaking of board wiping, we also play a single copy of Zeus. Zeus is great at just board wiping the field, plus we're playing pretty much all XZs, which is why I play this card as a 1-of. And then finally a single copy of Typhon. Typhon is just easy to make in just about any deck. It is a dark monster, so you have to watch out for cards like Gozen, but it's still really good in this deck to be able to make. It's just absolutely crazy. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Exosister before, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's really good right now. It's super fun to be able to play, and it's absolutely crazy how you can just lock down the graveyard with this deck, especially with so many graveyard heavy decks running around right now. It's just really, really fun. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can come part of our notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.